Hey, what's up? So I'm going to be showing how to convert a Bandit into a Rustler, and the reasons you would want to do that is to have bigger tires, and also it'd be a lot wider to make it more stable. Right here you can see how much wider the Rustler is, which will be a lot more stable when you're driving it. I will be showing you what parts you need from the Rustler, and I'll be putting the part numbers in the description below. Starting with the Bandit, what you'll need to take off is the body and the wing. And there's different ways you could do this. You could still use your old tires and body, or if you want to go completely to the new Rustler, you can have the new Rustler wheels, or even change the body too. Depends on what you want to do. So I'll start by taking the tires off. So if you do go to the Rustler tires, you're going to want to change out your spindles because the Rustler has the bigger bearings on it, or bushings. Unless you have the VXL Bandit, then you already have the larger bearings on it. The shocks on both of them are the same, so there's no reason to change those. It's mostly just the axles, the arms, and the spindles that you need to change. To take the front end apart is pretty easy. Let's just get to the screw right here for the steering tie rod. Right there. And do the same thing on the other side. Then you could just take out these two screws on top in the front. And then there's 3 screws on the bottom. And now with the front off, it's a lot easier to work on. So we'll be starting with taking the front lower shocks off. Just the bottom pin screw, because we'll still be using those shocks. And we can take this pin out. And also this screw for this rod. So that's all you'll be using from the front of the Bandit. All this will be changed out, unless you're going to keep the spindles for the smaller wheels. So here I have the parts from the Rustler. I have the longer steering tie rod, the longer arm, and the longer link. You can see the difference right here. The arm isn't much longer. That's because on the front of the Rustlers they use offset front wheels to make up for the difference. The rear is a lot wider. I also have the spindles with the larger bushing, which I'll show you right here, compared to these right here. And the steering tie rod is also longer on these. Not by much, but just a little bit. So most likely you're going to have to assemble all this together, but it's just a few screws to put together. And then when we put it back on the Bandit front end, you'll just need the pins from the Rustler. And you can use mostly your old hardware for the screws, or for everything else. For these screws right here. Make sure you put the washer behind them. So you put this through, and then put the washer, and then you can install it. And then you just put it on the other side, same thing. Okay, now it's ready to install back on there. Okay, so now if you are going to be using your Bandit body with the Rustler front end and rear end, you would just leave the front body mount off and you can still have it like this. But if you're going to use the Rustler body, then you'll need to put on the Rustler front body mount, which just mounts in the back of the shock tower. And it's just 2 screws that hold it on. And when it's done, it'll look like that. Starting on the rear, you just need to disconnect your motor wires and undo these screws in the front. And these 6 screws on the bottom. And then you can pull your transmission right off. And for the rear, the shocks are the same. I believe they just have different springs. So I'll be taking those off. We'll just be leaving that like that. And then take off the arms. And to get these off, you'll have to remove the shock tower. So you won't be needing the axles or the arms or the spindles, because these also have the smaller bushings on these spindles. And just remove these axles. You can change the gearing if you want. The Bandit uses a 83 tooth spur gear and a 21 tooth pinion. If you are going to be running the Rustler tires, you're going to want to change this out. The Rustler uses a 90 tooth spur and a 16 tooth pinion on the XL5. If you're going to be converting to brushless, or if you already have the brushless, you'll have to look up the gear ratios for that. This is just for the XL5. So I have the Rustler parts right here, and I'll start assembling this. I have the longer axles, the longer arms and links, and also the spindles with the larger bushings. So I'll start with the axles onto the transmission. Once those are installed, I can start on the arms. Make sure you put the axles in. And now you can install the shock tower. First start with these links. Same thing on the front. Make sure you put the washer on there. And you're going to want to change out these springs to the Rustler springs, which is pretty easy. You just pop this bottom off where this notch is. You can change the spring, and the Rustler does not use this spacer, so you can just put this back on with the Rustler spring and you pop this back on. But for right now, I'm just going to be using the Bandit shocks or springs. And now the rear is ready to install back onto the chassis. The rear shock tower on the Bandit is different from the Rustler, but you don't need to change it. The only reason it's different is to mount the wing in these holes. The Rustler rear shock tower doesn't have these holes. And just the bottom screws and it's ready to go. So now it's converted into a Rustler. You can install your tires and wheels, or the Rustler tires and wheels. I will go ahead and put the wheels on. And there you go. Just changed a Bandit to a Rustler. The only thing you might still want to change is the rear gearing and also the springs. As you can see, it's already sitting lower. It doesn't even have a battery in there. In the next video, I'll be converting a Rustler into a Bandit, so be sure to subscribe. Thanks.